Alright everyone, it's Monday and today we're just continuing the chat from Celtic's Scottish Cup final victory over Rangers, because who can get enough of that stuff? I did do a video yesterday just in the off chance that you didn't even bother to check, because it's normally just Monday to Friday. I thought I would do a wee video yesterday, so if you've not seen that, it's linked above, one of those sides, and it was just basically my kind of initial thoughts on the game. A few other things, but I kind of held back a few of the main talking points for today's video. So we're going to be mainly focusing on things people have had to say after the game. There's been a few interesting comments, a few interesting kind of topics as well, and a pile of other stuff as well. So that's what we've got for you today. Now, yesterday's video may have been brilliant, thanks very much, but it was missing one important component: Stevie. And I know you always like to hear what he has to say after these games. So after the intro sting, we'll hear from Stevie from his home on Saturday with an already changed desktop wallpaper. He doesn't mess about, that guy.
Hi Hamish. Immediate shoot reaction from Hampden. Celtic 1, Rangers 0, and I've got to say, going to that National Stadium, picking up trophy after trophy, and just seeing this club spoiled with success must get boring after a while. Nah, no chance, not for me. I quite like it. Yeah, it wasn't a memorable game, I've got to say, and I won't be watching the game back in a hurry, although I probably will. I'll have a couple of drinks and then I'll change my mind on it, and then say it was one of the best finals ever in true Stevie fashion here. But yeah, Adam Idah's winner was all that separated the sides, and it was the difference with being winners and losers, and that's something we know about Hamish, is being winners, and yet again Philip Clement as a loser in this fixture. You know, there wasn't a lot between the sides, and the game itself is a spectacle. It was kind of, I guess I would say, matched the fact that it was quite a subdued week and build-up getting into the game. I've got to say, in terms of quality, very, very minimal. But I think in these games too, like, you know, I've seen plenty of finals with Celtic where, yes, it'd be nice to blow the other team away. Yes, it'd be nice after the end of a long, grueling season to put on a real show and to put on a 5-star performance. It's not always the case in a final, very rarely. So it's really just all about the result. And that's what Celtic are so good at, Hamish, is making sure they know how to win. And yet again, that's what we saw today. We found a way to win when we were nowhere near our best. I would actually say that that's probably the best Rangers have played against us in the 4 meetings under Philip Clement. And I include the 3 extra there. I thought Rangers, for the most part, tactically were all right. But again, you can get your tactics all spot on. It's all about making changes, and it's all about your substitutions. And I think they killed the game when they brought on the likes of Matondo, McCausland and Scott Wright. Whereas we brought on Paulo Bernardo and Adam Idah, and the 2 players, on loan players, who combined for the really important goal for Idah at Ibrox back in March. Done it again. Bernardo, I was screaming for all game, Hamish, to come on for the very ineffective Rio Hatate. And Adam Idah, who replaced the equally ineffective Kyogo Furuhashi. Again, both combined. It was Butland spilling Bernardo's shot, but I really think you have to give credit to Bernardo for the way that he beat his man, didn't get down. You know, he had the energy to go drive at Rangers, and he didn't like it one bit. They didn't know what to do. Shot was on target, and England's greatest goalkeeper in the world spills it, and Adam Idah, I think, has a very smart finish directly under him. So yeah, the cup back where it belongs again, stays where it belongs, and that's us winning the Scottish Cup 42 times. I said, you know, it was a very subdued build-up all week, but as soon as we got into the stadium, you know, the atmosphere was riveting, I've got to say, and that was for both sides, as you would expect, Hamish, with the equal allocation and everything. But it was all just about the scenes after the game. As I say, during the match and everything will be forgettable, because it was all just about Celtic getting that win, the fans celebrating it, and sending Joe Hart off to retirement very happy. And yeah, I was delighted to see the fact that Hart was a winner. It was one of the, I didn't want to overdo it with the emotion with the whole last dance and the story and the fairy tale and all that. But now that it's done, it's fantastic to see Joe Hart Again, winning a trophy and getting out in style. Delighted for Brendan as well, because I've been critical of him this season. I think we all have. And he's shown right again that he is the correct man to take Celtic forward. Finds a way to win when other managers might have not done it, might have buckled, and especially that VAR call as well. There's no doubting that was a massive sort of moment in the game. I think, having seen the replays, it was the right call. I think it was possibly soft too, but if you're a player and you're putting both your hands on the goalie, like, goalies are protected enough as it is, we all know this, and if you're a player and you're attacking the corner and you're putting both hands on the goalie, it's not even a slight nudge at it or whatever, it's like both hands. It's a stonewall foul. Very, very stupid for asking. And in the end, it's probably cost Rangers, but that's their problem. We don't need to worry about that. We kept our discipline, we kept going, and as I say, even though we weren't at our best, we won the game, and that is all that matters. And I'm guessing now it's just about enjoying the summer, and we will. And I guess it's a really good chance to look forward to. Like, we will enjoy this season there, but I think we both know that there's work to be done on and off the pitch, and I guess we can discuss that at a later date as well. Right now, it's just about celebrating Celtic with a 118th trophy, and I don't think we're going to stop there anytime soon, Hamish.
Yes, thanks very much for that, Stevie. And he actually made quite a good point about that I hadn't kind of realised that it was, again, Idah and Bernardo. In fact, Bernardo and Idah in that order, combining for another important goal, just like they did at Ibrox. It was the same on Saturday for that winner. And we all know what Idah has brought to the party since he joined on loan in January, and we're going to chat at length during this video, hear what he's had to say about his future, hear what Brendan Rodgers has had to say. I don't think there's much debate there about wanting to sign Idah. I think there's probably more debate about Bernardo, and I don't think he's been spectacular this season. Like, there's been times when I've been a bit frustrated. I think he's got all the talent there, and I've said it before, I don't think at times he impacts games nearly enough. But I think it is worth saying that he's now shown up in 3 pretty major moments in derby matches this season. Scored his goal at New Year, great finish. Set up the Idah goal at Ibrox, terrific Ivan Idah type pass. And, you know, his drive from midfield and shot for the Idah goal on Saturday was major as well. 3 major contributions in the biggest match he will play for Celtic, you know, against Rangers. He's kind of shown up in those moments. By the way, I know I got a few comments after yesterday's video saying, why are you slagging off the winning goal? It was a thing of beauty. No, it wasn't. I mean, it was brilliant, the fact that we managed to get the winning goal, and it's going to be one of my favourite Celtic goals of all time, but come on, it wasn't a thing of beauty, was it? Anyway, what do you think? Should we sign Paulo Bernardo? For me, it's a yes. I think he's shown us enough. I think he's only going to get better as well for, you know, what he's experienced this season at Celtic. So hopefully that's one we're able to do. Somehow in yesterday's video I neglected to mention Alistair Johnson, who for me was our best performer on the day. He had a tackle in the second half in particular, a real moment when we were struggling to impose ourselves in the game and just do the basics and keep the ball, and Rangers were really starting to go. And I can't remember who the tackle was on, but it was down on the kind of Rangers left-hand side attacking, and someone was breaking through, and he just put in this fabulous tackle, cleanly took the ball and wrestled possession back, and we broke. And I just thought that moment in particular was brilliant. But I think he's been outstanding the last couple of months after a kind of hit and miss season up to that point. I know he kind of had injuries at the start of the campaign, but didn't really reach the heights of the previous season. But I think in the last couple of months he certainly has, and he's absolutely made for those derby matches. I mean, he rarely has anything below a brilliant game in these derby matches. And just Stevie brought up Rangers being losers as well, and that's always a topic that we can never get enough of. And I got this thing online from X, as we're to call it, user LK67, pointing out that Rangers didn't lead a single minute against us all season. And yeah, that stat is correct. It's a pretty cool stat. However, I guess they felt like they had the lead on Saturday for 60 seconds or so. So Yeah, there's always that for them to cling on to until the new season. It was total dominance for us in this fixture this season. In fact, I was looking at the record over the past couple of campaigns, and we've faced them 11 times now. 6 last season, 5 this season. We've won 8 of those 11, drawn 2 and lost just 1. And yes, that defeat was in a match when we had already secured the league title. Right, I want to move on to post-match comments, and perhaps the first real indication from Brendan Rodgers on the club's position and intention over Adam Idah. Speaking on Premier Sports after the game, Rodgers said, "For me, he was the catalyst of our season. We needed a different dimension up front and the big guy comes in. What I love about him is he's a big game player. He loves the big occasion, so hopefully we can do something. He's got a long-term contract at Norwich, but he is definitely one I'd love to bring back here. At 23, with the potential and quality he has, I think he can really push on in his career." So we very clearly want to sign Adam Idah. Again, that's hardly surprising given the impact he's made over the past 5 months or so. But it's still good to get that confirmation. Rodgers was also asked in his press conference at Hampden more about it. And he said basically the conversations between him and Adam Idah would remain private. Private's the word I'm looking for. But that Rodgers had made it clear to the board what he thought of Adam Idah. And to be honest, he said they're aware of that from January and wanting to bring him in. He spoke a bit about having seen Idah, first of all, in the Premier League when I think Idah was maybe 18 years old. And Rodgers was really impressed by his physicality. He said he's got pace, strength, and what was the other word he used? It was like explosiveness or something like that. And he basically said, looking at Idah, the one thing he felt he had to work on occasion was his positioning and getting into more goal-scoring positions. And I think that's the thing we've seen over the last 5 months about Idah, and people were very keen to talk about his lack of goals when he arrived at the club, and that kind of been a real drawback. But I think over the last 5 months, he's really shown that he knows how to score, and he scores different kinds of goals as well. And Saturday's a perfect example of a player having that striking instinct to follow up on Bernardo's shot and to actually finish it quite well. People look at that and think it's a tap-in. He actually has to put it right under Butland and be so alert to get onto the ball. So I think he's really become... He's not a poacher because he's got so much more to his game. And I know people are always kind of keen to do him down, and already people are saying, we need better for the Champions League. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Adam Idah's met every single challenge that he's been given at Celtic so far. He's risen to every challenge. Who, when he signed, was expecting him to score a winner in a cup final, a crucial goal at Ibrox, match-winning goals against Hibs and Motherwell that kept us in the title race at that stage? Who expected that? So why shouldn't we expect this guy at 23 to improve further? And if we do sign him, to be a player in the Champions League? He's got, looking at it, he's got the pace and the strength you would need at that level. I'm not saying he's going to go and score 5-6 goals over 8 matches in the Champions League, but I think he can be an effective player at that level and a different option to Kyogo. So that's what Brendan Rodgers thought of him. Idah himself, he was pushed a fair bit by the media in the mix zone at Hampden, but he was keen to dodge making any kind of big statement on his future, and that's understandable given that he's a Norwich player. He's actually contracted at Norwich until the summer of 2028, which I didn't realise. So he's still got 4 years to go on his Norwich contract. Quoted as saying, "I don't know, I'm still contracted at Norwich. I'm going to enjoy my time off and see what happens. I'm sure there will be conversations, but for now I need to take my time off." People getting a little bit worried by the fact that he didn't come straight out and say, "Yeah, I want to join Celtic." Were you really expecting him to do that? I mean, he is a Norwich City player after all. I don't remember Jota saying that he would absolutely want to sign for Celtic. I don't remember Carter Vickers saying that when those two were on loan a couple of seasons before. They both signed eventually. And I think at this stage of the season, a couple of years ago, we kind of all felt relatively confident that both would be signed. And I feel the same way with Adam Idah. Do Celtic want to sign him? Well, Brendan Rodgers clearly does. And that's, going to be the deciding vote. So we can tick that off, yes. Does Adam Idah want to sign for Celtic? We don't know. That's the truth of it. But why wouldn't he, given how good the last 5 months have been? And do Norwich want to sell Adam Idah to Celtic? Well, I guess that will come down to the price. And that's probably the crux of whether a deal can be done. But we have the money there and we want to sign him. And I think when those two things come together, as long as Norwich aren't wanting silly money for him, then I'm pretty sure a deal will be done. But I'm sure that will rumble on for a few weeks or possibly months yet. Hopefully the former. Moving on, Greg Taylor was asked about his on-pitch battle with Todd Cantwell after the game. Yeah, he had that moment when he kind of tackled Cantwell. It was actually a fine tackle, I thought, that he got booked for, and then got in Cantwell's face. Again, Taylor wasn't keen to make any headlines, but he also made it clear that he's not the TikTok star's biggest fan. He said a few things that I didn't like. It was a good battle in the game, but it was important to get the win. I don't want it to be a headline or that. I just didn't like a couple of the things he said. But that's fine. We move on. We went on and did the business, so it's important we focus on us and the success we've had in winning a cup. It is very clear to me that the Celtic squad, or certainly a fair few members of the Celtic squad, don't have much time for Todd Cantwell. I remember being in the presence of a Celtic first team player last season, and when the subject of Todd Cantwell came up, how do I put this? He described him using a 6-letter word beginning with W, and it's not winner. He had a few beers at that stage, but what is it they say? Drunken words are sober thoughts. We also had Anthony Ralston choosing to use this photo from our Scottish Cup semi-final win last year. Very obviously not a fan of Cantwell either. And of course the Greg Taylor, Alistair Johnson, Stephen Welsh stuff on Instagram after the game this weekend. So not a fan of Cantwell. I'd say we got the last laugh. To be honest, we've had every laugh. And there's been plenty of laughs at Todd Cantwell. In terms of Brendan Rodgers' post-match press conference, nothing truly major to say. As I say, he spoke about Idah. He spoke about Joe Hart being such an example and a role model for younger players. Brendan Rodgers has clearly got too much time in his hands because he somehow worked out that Joe Hart has had 4,200 training sessions in his career. Fair enough, and he says that Hart still approaches them like they're his first. He said that the significance of the final being on May the 25th hadn't been mentioned ahead of the game. I don't like to add pressure to the players, Rodgers said. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think Celtic are only getting started under Brendan Rodgers. Things were a bit awkward at the start of this season. They were weird. And I think that went on for a good few months. I think we're in a far better place now in terms of that relationship between everyone. We've got the weirdness out of the way, and I think we can just go into next season. And as I say, it feels to me like this is things really getting started now under Brendan Rodgers, and I'm so excited to see what we can do going forward. I think a fair bit of it will come down to recruitment. We clearly need to fare a hell of a lot better in that regard than we did this season. We have to replace Joe Hart well. That's a signing that, without being melodramatic, our season could hinge on our Joe Hart replacement, because we've seen how badly things go when you get your goalkeeping signing badly wrong. But I'm confident we'll replace Hart suitably. And potentially the player we bring in might have parts of his game that are even better than Joe Hart's. any other first team players that move on will have to replace them suitably as well. That won't be easy if someone like Matt O'Reilly moves on. That's a lot of quality you're missing out on. But again, hopefully the club are able to do that. And I think the main thing is we're going to keep the core of that team together. I think, Hart's obviously leaving. I would expect, as I've said a few times, O'Reilly to move on. I don't think we'll lose any other key first team players. I think the club will be keen to not have what happened last year with like Jota, Starfelt, Moy all moving on. I think that was 3 very key players from the previous season. I think if Hart and O'Reilly were to go, then you keep the core of the squad together, add some quality. Left back needed, another centre back needed, at least one winger, possibly a centre mid as well. Get Idah and Bernardo in. I think you're looking at the guts of a good squad, and I think they'll be better for this campaign as well. And I think Brendan Rodgers has really come into his own over the past 2 or 3 months. So I'm excited to see what he can do next season. But I guess we've got a whole summer to talk about that. By the way, just on the subject of May the 25th, a shout out to the Patrick Sarsfield CSC Limerick, who had their latest anniversary on that glorious date. Martin from there actually sent me a t-shirt around this time last year. Sadly, that didn't make the cut. It didn't make it to Melbourne. It's still somewhere in Scotland, so that's disappointing, but I'll hopefully make up for it, Martin, by giving you a big well done. As I say, well done to the Patrick Sarsfield CSC Limerick for another year. And on the subject of CSCs, Mark from the Houston Bobby Lennox CSC emailed me to say that Fran Alonso had showed up there to watch the game on Saturday, and he attached this photo. Absolutely love it. Finally, Celtic legends beat Borussia Dortmund legends 4-2 yesterday at Celtic Park. Our goals came from Georgios Samaras. Man of the match, Gary Hooper, got a double, and Charlie Mulgrew sealed it late on. I've heard of both of those Dortmund players as well. David Odonkor, I believe. Remember him? Did he score a goal or set a goal up at the 2006 World Cup? He was so fast. I wonder if he's still fast. And is it Blaszczykowski? Quite a well-known, I think he's Polish, scored there as well. So, Celtic the winners, but I'm legally obliged to say that charity was the real winner there. Well done to everyone who went on. I know Brendan Rodgers and James Forrest were out with the trophies before that match, so hopefully you had a fun day out. Right, thanks for watching today's video. Speak to you soon.